So you've planned your destination wedding and you're ready to leave for it. There are some things you really shouldn't forget. I've heard these stories, so hold on, let's talk about it. So you're all packed up, you think you're ready to go, but let me give you some hints of things we've heard from people that they've forgotten or have asked me about. The first thing, and this is really important, your passports. Do me a favor, even before you're packed, months before you're packed, look at your passports. Make sure the dates are correct. Make sure your names are correct. Make sure everything matches your airline flights, whatever it is you're bringing with for TSA. Make sure that you bring that information with you at the airport so you don't have a problem getting on your flight. So just watch out for your passports and make sure you have them with you. Another item people tend to forget are your travel documents. Again, before you even pack, you should look at this stuff versus waiting to the last minute and realizing you may have forgotten something at home or in the office. So what are the things I think you need to look at? First of all, if you're driving to the airport, make sure you know where you're going to park your car. You may do it in advance because some of the places that you park at will give you a discount. So make sure once you get to the parking lot, you note where you're parking so when you get back from your amazing wedding and honeymoon that you know where you left your car. Now also, take a look at your travel documents, your airline tickets. Make sure they're for the right days. I know you think I'm joking. Make sure they're for the right seats and the right flights. If that all works out, bring them with you. If not, make sure to call the airline to reconfirm if you have information that doesn't make any sense. So now you're ready to pack. So you want to bring your airline tickets with you. Now you may not have printed them, but I will advise it is always a great idea to print your boarding passes and print your tickets even though the airlines say you don't need to, you can just bring them in an app. Just in case you don't have Wi-Fi, your phone fails or something, you don't want them pushing you to another line. So print all the information and bring it with you. Carry a file with you. Now, the next thing you need to do is make sure you have your documents that show you what hotel you're going to. Yeah, that's pretty important. And how you're getting to the hotel. If you're working with us at Vacationies, we send you that information. Again, please print it. You can't imagine the number of people that call us once they get to wherever it is, Cancun, Punta Cana, Italy, and it's like, hey, how do I get where I'm going? And guess what? We may not be here if there's a time difference. So please review your travel documents and bring them with you. Now, outside of your travel documents, how about any wedding paperwork you need? If this is your wedding and it's a legal wedding, you're going to have a list of documents you need to bring with you. Make sure you bring them so you can get married. If this is a symbolic wedding, okay, you don't need to bring as many documents, but if you have your marriage certificate from at home, I would suggest just bring that with you in case anybody in the destination says to you, can you show me that you're married and that this is symbolic? I've heard of this happen. It shouldn't, but it can. So again, I'm a big paper guy. I still print things, carry manila folders with me. So print all this stuff and bring it with you as well as the travel documents. This is all stuff you should prepare before you even pack your suitcases. Now here's a funny one. Not really. What about the rings, right? So make sure that you pack the rings. Now here's a hint. Do not pack your rings in your suitcases. Put your rings in your carry-on. Anything valuable, I always suggest you want to make sure you're carrying that on. So check in the ring boxes because I've heard of clients that have brought the ring boxes, but the rings weren't in the boxes. But make sure the rings are in the boxes, pack them in your carry-on, and carry them on the plane. Do not ship them in the suitcases. Once you get to the resort, what I would suggest you do is make sure you have them and put them in the safe at the resort and hold them until it's time to deal with wedding stuff. The next thing is, I would say, is your clothing. So if you're bringing a gown and you have certain shoes and if you're bringing undergarments that are specific to the gown. If you're a guy like me, bring an extra shirt for your tux or whatever you're wearing, just in case you rip it, you stain it, you do something to it, an extra tie. If you need cufflinks, bring that extra stuff. So make sure before you pack, you, the bride, the groom, it's all packed. Make sure it's set to go. When you get to where you're going, unpack it and make sure it's all there immediately. What you don't want to do is wait until the day of the wedding and the wedding planner at the resort says, hey, can you give me your shirt? And you're like, oh my, I forgot it. They may have one to help you, but I always suggest checking all that stuff, bringing some extra supplies, and as soon as you get to that resort and you're unpacking, make sure you have that stuff, unpack it, push it in the back of the closet so you know where it is, but you want to make sure you have everything you need for your events. Okay, so you're at the resort, you have this plan of what you're doing, but before you leave, again, back to the fact that I'm a paper guy, or do it in notes on your phone. Have your schedule of events of what's happening during your wedding event for the weekend, the 4 or 5 days you're there, if you're doing an excursion. Have the dates and the times and who is in charge of what for each event. So if you're going to have a DJ, I would have the contact information for all the vendors. Now again, you're probably working with a planner at the resort who's going to have all this information, but you should have it as well. And I would suggest make sure you have this packed. As soon as you get to the resort and you're meeting with the planner, you want to go over and compare what you have and what they have and make sure your timelines match, make sure your events match and all your vendors match and any pictures you have of how you want to set up. Because if you forget that at home, you may be out of luck in terms of remembering what you wanted, but you don't have. Now here's what a lot of people have asked me about is cash for tips. So I know you're potentially going to an all-inclusive and you think you don't need tips, but it's nice to have them. But I'm talking about tips for the wedding team you're working with. If you're at home, you're probably tipping people if you have a wedding at home. And the same thing, if you are having a wedding at a resort, an off-site venue, I would say to you, you want to bring US dollars, cash, because someone may have done a great job, the wedding planner at the resort. Maybe it's the bartender. Maybe it's the servers, one of the entertainers, and you want to give them a little bit extra. You would want to bring some cash for tips versus trying to go to the ATM machine at the resort or leaving the resort. So I would say to you, people ask how much. I always tell them bring, $500 and $20 bills or $5 bills, a good mix between 5s and 20s. This way, if you want to tip someone, you have different denominations. I think it's always nice if you bring some envelopes so that you can organize the tips in your mind beforehand so you're not scurrying around at 10 o'clock at night at the end of your reception going, oh my gosh, I want to tip so-and-so, but I've got to go back to my room in my safe and get the tips. So I would say in your mind, put some money aside for various tips for it. I would say the wedding planners typically are people I'm told get tipped, maybe the head waiter or the maitre d' who's managing your event, maybe some bartenders, maybe some servers. And again, if you want to pre-organize this stuff in envelopes and note who it is, and in your mind put a little bit of money and don't seal the envelopes, I think it's better to be organized with the stuff prior to getting there versus standing there and going, okay, what do I do? Now my last hint on things you don't want to forget, and this is something I think you really need to work on couple weeks prior to departure, is what I call the emergency kit. So what goes in the emergency kit? Now, I carry a standard emergency kit with me for all travel, but I think for weddings, there's a couple things you want to carry. And I'm not really going to be definitive as in terms of the bride and groom here, so I'll just mention some things. So again, let's look at medication. If you take medication, please make sure you have that packed in your carry-on. Okay, that's just a general overall travel thing. Now some people have said they've read that they need to have the prescription from their doctor with them. If it's prescription, I don't think you need to have that. So I would just make sure if you're on any medication, put it in your travel kit. Now, other things I would just always have just for your guests as well as yourself are things like Tylenol, Band-Aids, Motrin, maybe some Pepto-Bismol, things of that nature. The thing is, if any of these items are liquids that are over 3.5 ounces, as you know, you cannot carry them on the TSA will take them. So you do want to put those, such as suntan lotion, in your suitcases versus medication that you need to carry on. A couple other things I always suggest would be maybe some pins, safety pins, other suntan lotion. You can always buy it there, but it's much more expensive and they may not have the brand you like. The makeup and things that you're going to need, any hair products. And again, with these things, again, look to make sure the size is not above 3.5 ounces, because if it is, you do want to pack that so you don't have that taken away from you going from the United States to wherever you're flying to. Other things, whatever wardrobe items you may need for your various events. So if you're going to have a certain outfit, make sure you have those outfits. As I said with me, I'm a little messy. I get stuff on me. So if you're a guy or anybody, or you have kids going with you, maybe have an extra shirt, maybe have an extra pair of socks or shoes, maybe have extra undergarments with you, so that those are things in your emergency kit. The other thing in your emergency kit is make sure you have your chargers for your phones, because sometimes at the resorts they have USB, but they don't have USB-C, so you may need an adapter. So I would make sure before you leave you have all these things in your emergency kit. And my last thing in your emergency kit would be phone numbers of anybody at home or with you that you may need in case you have an emergency and you need some help. So these are some of my hints of things not to forget in traveling for your destination wedding. Feel free, if you have any ideas of things I've missed, to post them as a comment, and we can help other people planning their destination wedding. Thanks for watching the video, and this is Jack with Vacationese.